Since we recently discussed the new tariffs affecting the American market and other markets as well, the idea of Velomobiles, one of the most expensive equipment purchased by people following this channel, Velomobiles that are not made in an EU country came up. EU countries are going to be hit. In fact, they already are being hit by fairly heavy tariff. Not all countries are, and of course there is at least one domestic option for a Velomobile, which I am going to include in this video. But let's start with Canada. This machine that you are looking at here, the Velomtek, is a Canadian Velomobile. It's actually a very cute piece, and it does give you a lot. I'm not necessarily crazy about the lights. I prefer the light to be all the way in the front, because then, especially in darkness, other vehicles can see the full size, the extent of my vehicle a lot better. So there are certain areas of it that I don't particularly fancy. According to the manufacturer, you can load wider tires on this, and I think you can do that with almost all of them. If you can load a 2-inch wide tire, I think that's the way to go. But I do see enough of a gap here for you to go as wide as 2 inches. The thing is, for a 2-inch wide tire, I would actually prefer a wider rim. So I don't know if they sell it as stock, probably do not. And that will be the best. But even with this narrow rim, I had a narrow rim on my Birdie bicycle, and I had no problem loading a 2-inch wide tire. Whether this is the best way to go or not is going to be the subject of another video. But for now, I will just say this, that yeah, you can load it. The brakes are supposed to be drum brakes, which I am also not too crazy about. But it is true that they are quite durable and reliable. They're not very powerful. Quality hydraulic disc brakes would be better. The lights in the rear are very small and marginal, even if they are bright. Especially in American traffic, I would expect more. There's also not a lot of packing place in the rear, but the aerodynamics of it, the sturdiness of it, looks great. The way the rear wheel is integrated, it looks very nice. And notice that they have this option. I believe this cover is made of carbon fiber that you can add, which is a nice aerodynamic addition. Looks really good. It is made of carbon fiber. The way it opens, the way you get in, is that you open this entire panel, which I also do like. It's easy access. I'm not sure if I like the bubble, but I imagine that during warm weather you would just remove it. The top is removable, and in the winter this glass house effect is going to give you extra heat. So it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just now he's showing the big tire. That's what we are talking about. Big bend plus. That's very important, and it looks better too. It fills up the space a lot better. I don't understand why anybody would buy a skinny tire on something that has to go over all the bumps and everything at possibly 50 or 60 miles an hour. And this is a trike, so it's not so easy to avoid the bumps because it's not a dual track vehicle. There are 3 tracks, left wheel, right wheel, and the rear. This is the interior. It's not much different from anything else. I see lots of carbon fiber, which is nice considering the price. And we will look at the price soon enough. We are all familiar with this computer. This is the most powerful computer on the market. This is what I describe in my book. The company will electrify the Velo for you. I would prefer if you followed my example and installed a green kit and modified it or tuned it as I describe in the book. But this is up to you. There's certainly nothing shameful about accepting what they sell you, but I think the green kit is just more powerful. He has the battery. This is the electric version, and this is the roll-off hub, very nicely built. I like it. And there is a hub motor, which is not as torquey as powering the center, but it allows you very easy access for regenerative braking. And I think for Velomobiles that's even more important than for a bicycle, because On the bike, you might get it up to 35 miles an hour on the average downhill. In a velomobile, you could get it up to 60. So if you reduce that to 35 or 40 an hour and regenerate the rest of the energy as much as you can, that can be a very powerful addition to your range. Whereas with an upright bicycle, how much are you going to regenerate? Instead of taking the downhill at 35, you take it at 20. It's not going to give you as much extra energy as you would get from such a higher speed vehicle. Here is the top opened up. I generally like the proportions. Notice that the rear wheel is all the way to the back. But one thing that I don't like about many velomobiles is that the front is hanging over so much. Not in this case. The front hangs over a little bit, but not too much. It is actually quite an upright velo, that's why. And very nicely built, no question about it. Handmade quality, nice. The rider is sitting pretty upright, and I guess that's why the front is not hanging over as much. You look at some of the details. So this is what it looks like from the side. It has a water drop shape. The front could be even more aerodynamic, and as I mentioned, I would prefer the front lights to be in the front all the way and the rear to have bigger light. There's not a lot of packing place here. And the drum brakes, they are not as powerful as a disc brake, but if you electrify it or if you buy their own electric option, that could give you plenty of regenerative power, even though you're powering the rear, not the front. So regenerative braking is not going to be as powerful in the rear as it would be in the front, which is the case with my build. But look at the price. So far, I don't know how tariffs are going to affect it, but you are paying $7,000 for the basic model. And even that one comes with a roll-off. This is not much more than you would be paying for a Brompton titanium. And there's absolutely no question that if I had to choose between the two, I would spend my money on a velomobile. If I can get a velo for just $1,000 more, I'm getting the velo. And here is actually very powerful 750 watt wheel motor with regeneration, with brake regeneration. That's $10,000. The difference between the two is $3,000, which is outrageous. You could get a green setup with battery and everything for half as much. As always, they try to rip you off with the electric option. I would not get that. But the basic option is a killer deal. Even without the tariffs, I have never seen a better offer from Europe, not from Liba, not from any of the really competitively made and priced velomobiles out of Germany and some other places. So this is a really good deal. I think it's handsome, it's nice, and it's very compact and upright, which I do like. There are some additions I would add. Definitely I would add a big light in the rear, maybe up here. But you can add those things, and the fat tires I also do like. It's so important. I'd much rather ride on the Big Bend than some skinny 1.35 racing tire, which you don't really need, especially if you have electric support. The second company I would like to look at is the Trisled. This is an Australian company. They are well known for their cheap crap plastic velomobiles, but they also make some high-end racing velos like the one you see here. This is hardcore racing, very low lying. You can see that the rider is practically lying at the bottom. This thing has very low profile, hardly any ground clearance, especially at the wheels. If you come across speed bumps, you may have to get outside and lift the front to get past the speed bumps. That's the downside of it. So this is more like showing off on a very smooth pavement, kind of like the shoulder at the 9W just outside of Manhattan, where people, including myself, like to show off. But very, very low profile. Kind of really cool velomobile. If you look at their basic stuff, this is the basic stuff. It's like machine-made, prefab, cheap craft with skinny tires, and it's about the same price as the previous velomobile I was showing, which would be giving you so much. The front hangs over like crazy. The whole thing is like disproportionate, very short. The rear wheel is not really covered up enough. I don't recommend this one. And people who have ridden it are also not happy about it. It's not that cheap, and it looks like a soapbox, to be honest. It looks like something you got out of Walmart. But look at their racing velos. I mean, that's the main deal here. Some of them are really expensive. The one they were just looking at, this one, is $16,000. So prices get up to close to $20,000 for this stuff. But they have one that is sort of not as cool looking. It looks like a little school bus, but it is also very low. And look at the price, $7,500. I don't know if this is US or Australian really, but look at the chain wheel. This is minimum 70 teeth, and they don't have a roll-off. So this thing was not designed to climb anything. It's slow off the line. It was really made for serious racing. But once you get going, this thing is going to be really speedy because it is just so low and so compact. It doesn't even have any bumps in it, like a bubble for the driver to look outside. I'm also not sure as to how well the driver can see. I mean, you can see something, but that's not the most important. The most important part of this ride is the low profile, and I assume the tires are racing tires as well. The ground clearance is even lower than what we were looking at now. There's hardly anything. So this is for the racetrack, or if you want to show off on smooth terrain in your own neighborhood. This is definitely not for touring, not for exploring anything. But this is one of the few velos that is not made in an EU country. I'm not even sure how much of a tariff you have buying it from the US, but currently it's supposed to be $7,500, and I assume some money for shipping, especially shipping from that far away. And finally, we have already discussed the Pebl in a previous video. I just wanted to get back into it because this is what it looked like. This was the original version of it, which is pretty ridiculous. Teeny tiny skinny wheels. You can see how the guy is pedaling. It doesn't even have a full bottom, and it just looks silly. But apparently they made enough money. This is the interior, very shoddy, homemade looking interior, and they have a handlebar instead of a steering wheel, which is the way it should be. But it was in some ways innovative because this plastic shell was made out of a soy oil, soy plastic. So this is plant-based plastic, which is the part that I really liked. And there was lots of packing. For a Velomobile, it's American, so it's supposed to be bigger than anybody else's, and it is. It's upright seated, so quite easy to integrate into normal city traffic, sort of like a mini car or a micro car. And look, the kit fits in the back of it. What's most important is that now they have a new version. So this was the one they made. This was the previous version. It was just really ugly, although it worked, and apparently they either made enough money on it or they obtained financing. But now they have this butch looking thing, way more advanced. It looks really good. The headlights are much bigger, much better. I mean, this is very car-like experience. You have lights like a car. You have the height of almost like a smart car. This wraparound windshield is way cooler than what they had. Look at what they had. It had this little side thing. It was anything but wraparound. It had a flat front glass like this, and not necessarily any windshield wiper. Teeny tiny light, although even this is better than you get from most Velomobiles. This is a really cool looking ride. Very well covered wheels, wide wheels, so you don't even need to upgrade to a wide tire. You are getting wider tires. In fact, I believe this is more than 2 inches. This is seriously fat tire. You have a fully sealed door, very good rear view mirror. So in many ways, they have improved it in so many ways. It looks cool in my opinion. It's a really cool little three-wheeler. Check this out. Although this is not a headlight, this is really just a cover for it. This is what the headlight looks like. But these are functional lights, and they are bigger than the lights on any of the other two Velos we have just looked at. This is the pricing. You are getting so much more with this ride. And keep in mind, this is electric, There are no non-electric versions. With the 50-mile range, it's $1,000 more than what the Canadian was charging. It makes it very compelling. Check this out, 4-inch wide tires, bumpy tires. They have one for $12,000 and I believe $13,000. If you want to put in a tiny solar panel, which is not going to do all that much, or if you want more range, you want a bigger battery, $13,000. Once again, I don't believe in it. What I would do would be to buy the basic one for $11,000 and put a generator in the rear for longer trips. You can get a decent generator for $500. It costs practically not much more than the price of a larger battery, and it can extend your range a great deal. You don't have to pay an extra $2,000. They are really ripping you off with all these extras. To install the electric kit, to give you an extra battery, they would definitely not fool me with that. But the basic price, I think this is reasonable for what you get. It's not cheap, but based on the price of commuting cars these days, a Corolla starts at $25,000. This is less than half of that. It hardly has any maintenance, hardly any fuel cost. It's fully electric, and electric propulsion systems don't really need much of any maintenance. So this is all I can line up for non-EU Velomobiles. If Canada, being a non-EU country, joins the European Union, then I guess even the Canadian model is going to be lost. I'm not sure how this is going to work out because the US wants Canada and the EU also wants Canada. So whichever option they go with, it looks like Canadian independence is over.
I'll be back.